Kabardins live on fertile plains in the foothills of the Caucasus. These proud people, brave warriors and skillful land tillers, have been one of Russia's most outstanding, independent and least known ethnic groups for centuries. Their history is one of battles for freedom, honor and the right to live in accordance with centuries-old traditions, which have long since become a way of life. Vyacheslav Mastafov is weaving a traditional Kabardin mat called argen as he reflects on the history of his people. Mastafov is an amateur philosopher and self-made artist. He's one of the best-known Kabardin folk craftsmen. He's just over 50 years old and has mastered nearly all folk crafts, from embroidery in gold and traditional sewing to making Kabardin saddles and mats.
As I sit in the courtyard, I see some people weaving something. Sometimes they need help, so others go and help them. They bring something or other, and then some of them stop to see what the weaver is doing. Others are not interested. They run away to play football.
There is a mat made of reeds in each Kabardin household. It's not simply an object of the interior. A unique mat is handcrafted for each newborn baby. The babies learn to walk on such mats. During their first encounters with their mothers-in-law, brides had to stand on mats. Mats were also used as a blanket during the night.
If you lie on it, you feel that it returns the warmth of your body to you. It is a living thing. Although it is less than 1 centimeter thick, you can place it on concrete and you can lie there until morning. You get back the warmth of your body.
The beginnings of the history of the Kabardinian people are lost in time. It is known, though, that the mighty Ardig's Kabardin ancestors settled here at the beginning of the first millennium. Once one of 12 Ardig tribes, today Kabardins are the main ethnic group of Kabardino-Balkaria, a small republic in the south of the Russian Federation. A total of just under 600,000 Kabardins live in Russia.
When the earth emerged from non-existence, our forefather was a baby, lulled in a cradle.
Aslan Tsepinov has been studying Kabardin folklore and folk traditions for several decades. He knows every word in the Kabardins' fundamental, even if unwritten code of laws. It is called Habze. Aslan's study is a veritable museum. It contains hundreds of objects of Ardig culture, from flags bearing princely insignia to musical instruments. However, his father's fur hat and his grandfather's felt cloak hold a special place.
This felt cloak was made by my grandmother in line with traditional technology. As far as I know, it's the only felt cloak in our land to stand without a prop. So thick it is.
The people of Kabarda have always been trendsetters in the northern Caucasus. Nearly every piece of clothing that we usually call Caucasian has been invented here. Madina Khatsukova has been in the business of making traditional dress for 14 years. Her workshop employs 9 people. It's regarded as one of the best in the northern Caucasus.
Here you can see the clothes that were worn by princes in the 19th century. These containers are called gazeri, and in translation, gazeri means ready. Gazeri held powder for the rifle.
The Kabardin male dress includes a Circassian coat, a collarless kaftan. There is also a silver belt with a dagger, a fur hat, Morocco soft leather shoes and leather stockings. As a rule, common folk wore clothes of a grey colour, whereas princes were dressed in bright red.
In wartime, even the enemy immediately knew a prince when they saw one. He wasn't killed, but was taken prisoner. He was treated very well before he was released for remuneration.
Traditional woman's dress consisted of a shirt and pants worn underneath a small kaftan and an unbuttoned long-sleeved dress. A glance was enough to see the girl's social or family status. If a girl was wearing a small kaftan, that signaled the arrival of puberty. If she was wearing a belt, that meant she was ready to get married. If she replaced a hat with a scarf, that was a sure sign that she had given birth to a baby. Many travelers have noted the extraordinary slenderness of Kabardin women. The national standard of beauty is a shapely figure and a thin waist.
Girls between the ages of 6 and 10 wore corsets. They wore them before the marriage.
A traditional dress was made for Timbulat Hamizov soon after he was born. No diapers or nappies, the 2-week-old boy lay in his cradle clad in a Circassian coat, a tiny fur hat and minute leather stockings. Mohammed and Dina, his parents, maintained that the perfect Kabardin male should look exactly like that.
The Kabardin dress is a culture and a heritage. When the boy was born, my parents chose that variant. We ourselves wore traditional dresses at our wedding ceremony. So we keep up this tradition.
Colour was a matter of special concern on the part of the boy's parents. They decided that the Circassian coat should look festive and therefore the colour should be white. They attached a minute dagger to the silver belt. It took them a lot of effort to find the right size of leather stockings.
When someone suggested that we put baby booties on his little legs, a Circassian coat and baby booties just don't go together.
A wedding is the most colourful Kabardin traditional ceremony. As a rule, wedding ceremonies lasted for several days. They attracted all of the couple's relatives and friends. At the start of the festivities, the bride was taken into the bridegroom's house. The feast got underway with the arrival of the bridegroom. Bride and bridegroom never showed up together before the end of the ceremony. This tradition is no longer observed now, but today too a Kabardin wedding ceremony means hundreds of guests, dances and endless toasts. Now bridegrooms and brides are allowed to sit together, but all other feast traditions remain unchanged. Only the most important and respected guests are allowed to sit at the same table with the bridegroom. Women, old people and youngsters share a special table.
Let's have a snack of meat.
The toastmaster, the oldest or most respected man among the guests, invariably sits at the head of the table. Each of his words is law for the others. No one can speak up without his permission.
I wish to propose a toast to the couple's happiness. May they always be joyful and wealthy. May their children's silvery laughter always give them a joy.
Mutton is the most favorite food among Kabardins. Members of the bridegroom's family have to slaughter scores of rams in order to provide mutton for several hundred people.
Children, today we are going to study a very old and little-known dish.
Apart from various mutton dishes, veal, chicken and dairy products are also popular in the Kabardin cuisine. Boys and girls alike are taught to cook meat from early childhood. Children attending the Center of Aesthetic Education of the capital of Kabardino-Balkaria, Nalchek, are taught traditional cookery in a special class.
Let's add some sour milk.
Today, Lyusya wants to tell children how to cook chicken in sour milk. Only about 10 people in the Republic know how to do it. The traditional recipe is almost unknown now.
What distinguishes Kabardin cuisine is that you can't cook anything without choosing the right products. They need to be natural, ecologically clean products.
For the food to be real tasty, Lyusya uses chicken, butter and milk from her household. She's learned old recipes from Boris Kubatiev, one of the most famous Kabardin chefs. Only a handful of people in the Republic can cook traditional meals better than Lyusya.
Even if I don't have anything but flour, I can cook 3 different dishes from the same flour.
Kabardins have always been famous as skillful craftsmen. Children at the Aesthetic Education Center in the capital of Kabardino-Balkaria are taught traditional folk crafts, clay modeling, embroidery in gold and etching. Many of the wares made by center graduates are just as good as those made by masters. Children have made these dishes. And this is the work of Aleksandr Pazov, Kabardino-Balkaria's best engraver. Aleksandr is a physicist by education. 30 years ago, Pazov was sent to the Antarctic on a scientific expedition. To beat boredom, Aleksandr made a jar using a sheet of copper. Since then, making such things has been his main preoccupation.
There's any number of physicists. 1,000 of them are doctors of sciences, and there are a whole lot of people with lesser degrees. But I'm the only one. What's the point of being one of them? My job gives me kicks. I'm doing what I can do best of all.
Today, Aleksandr Pazov is one of Russia's 2 masters who know the art of making plates using the cold hammering method. The other one is his son. The sound of a hammer is heard in his tiny workshop all day long. Such work implies that you have to hit each square centimeter of metal more than 4,000 times.
Come in here.
Pazov's wares are to be found in the world's best museums, but no museum is a match for what the master has at home.
See this plate? You can put it on a table and use it as a utilitarian thing, but then you can also use it as an ornament on the wall. Only a few of them are left.
Like any artist, Aleksandr Pazov has a dream. He wants to make a vessel for water called a gugon using a single piece of metal.
A girl wishing to carry water in a gugon squatted so that she could slip her hand around it and stand up without difficulty. But I can't do that. This gugon is not for me.
The perfect Kabardin male is unimaginable without a Kabardine horse. Legend has it that the progenitor of the Kabardine horse was a mythical stallion by the name of Alp, who emerged from the Black Sea to join people. The horse played such an important role in Kabardine lives that the word dismount in their mother tongue is tantamount to being killed. Kabardins still claim that human blood circulates in the veins of their horses.
Come on, let's go.
The Gabardine horse was a symbol of unpretentiousness and stamina. Horses of that breed grazed out in the wild and needed little attention on the part of humans.
Above all, this is a combat horse, a horse for warriors, battles, and victories.
There are many legends concerning the Kabardine horse. The hooves of such horses are said to have been concave. If a Kabardine horse stepped on a hen's egg, he didn't crush it. Kabardins claim that during military campaigns, a combat horse could sense an enemy from a distance and duly alert the horseman.
The horse has his likes and dislikes in relation to his master. Once a man acquires a horse of the Kabardin breed, he feels attached to him and never abandons him. On many occasions, Kabardin horses carried their masters away from the battlefield, even if they were already dead, but still in the saddle.
There's something special about the Kabardine saddle. Essentially, it's a wooden base made of 4 boards and covered with leather. Kabardins liked to ornament the saddle and were ready to pay any sum of money for that. Silver ornaments, though, are not the most expensive part of the saddle. It's a special pillow filled with the hollow hairs of a reindeer or a wild ox.
In the old days, saddles of this kind cost quite a lot. A good saddle could be exchanged for a pedigree racer. Moreover, sometimes 15 to 20 oxen were given for a saddle.
That kind of saddle design enabled Circassian warriors to charge on the move. They could swing around in the saddle or pick up any object from the ground by shoving their heads under the horse's belly. The Kabardine horse today is an inevitable part of long-distance horse races. This horse has no difficulty covering 100 kilometers in mountainous terrain, carrying a load of 150 kilograms. People here say no other breed anywhere in the world is capable of such a feat. Stabbing weapons are yet another object of Kabardin pride. Felix Nakov is regarded as the world's best expert on Kabardin blades. 7 years ago, Felix and friends set up a laboratory called the Path of the Warrior to recreate traditional Kabardin weapons.
Here we must make another camber, but here it'll be straight, like a bayonet.
Anzor Yetisheyiv, the blacksmith, is moulding a Kabardin saber. The bend of its blade makes it possible to slash, cut and thrust at the same time. Apart from the saber, knives, daggers and swords were traditional weapons. Local warriors like to say that a sword must be as light as a feather, as elastic as a vine and as sharp as a razor blade.
The Circassian sword made it possible for warriors to charge at various levels, in different directions, and very quickly too. Therefore, Kabardin warriors could fight in the thick of enemy troops, very effectively and at high speed. Initially, the sword was an agricultural implement. It was used to cut vine. It was a kind of machete, in fact. This gave rise to the cut and thrust charge, which was then developed on horseback and on the ground. A sword leaves the warrior much room for maneuver and movement. It helps him cleave a path through the wilderness and beat off enemy attacks. The sword's design made it possible to strike in a very unexpected fashion, such as from under a felt cloak. Duels were part of the Kabardin tradition. They were called the edge of the felt cloak. A felt cloak was spread out on the ground and opponents stood on its edges. Jabs were prohibited, only slashes were allowed. To step off the felt cloak was seen as a loss of honor and face.
The closest imitation of what Kabardins do with their weapons is an enchanting dance. Genuine Kabardin dances are marked by soft ride and gravity. The folk dance group Khatti is rehearsing the kafa, a princely dance rooted in the centuries. The kafa is always accompanied by the sound of a local harmonica and a percussion instrument called partsich, which is a set of plates imitating clapping hands. Old kafas were often accompanied by singing.
The kafa is a concentration of everything that stands for Kabardin. It's a mood. It's how they perceive themselves on this earth. It's a concentrated expression of the dignity of these people.
The choreography of Kabardin dances was never committed to paper. Much of it was lost in the 20th century. It had to be restored on the basis of the few drawings made by visiting artists and the genetic memory inherent in the Kabardin people.
You don't like taking pictures, do you?
I hate it.
There is a 4-year-old boy by the name of Tamerlan Kalmukov. He's a real gem. Once he came to us to show how he could dance. I said to myself, that's it, that's the way to do it. You see, that boy showed us how we should dance and put us back on track, as it were. Nobody had taught him to dance like that. Simply he had it in him, that's all.
Now Tamerlan is one of the Republic's celebrities. He's always invited to the plushest wedding ceremonies, where he shows off his fiery dances.
So serious.
It's obvious that Tamerlan feels bored at a wedding ceremony. He gives the bride the inevitable bunch of flowers and tries to hide from pestering fans. He only awakes when he hears the sound of music. It's then that he starts his foot-tapping dances to applause from the audience. Tamerlan received general acclaim when a national television channel showed him performing a dance in a program called A Minute of Fame. All judges gave him the highest marks. He did not get 1 million, but instead became a high-profile star of national stature.
Tamerlan, I see some inscriptions on your back. What's this stuff about? Can you tell us about it?
It's the family sign. Means that I'm Kalmykov.
Tamerlan Kalmykov was born into the family of an accountant and a private entrepreneur. His parents swear that none of their kin has ever been a career dancer, nor was anybody going to teach him to dance either. It so happened that when he was 3.5 years old, he suddenly ventured onto the carpet and gave it all.
Before he began dancing in earnest, he had watched numerous dancers in television programs. Basically, I think that's when he picked up some of the skills, and that's when he learnt to dance.
Experts agree that the way Tamerlan dances is a very accurate expression of the very essence of the Kabardin dance. As for his parents, they feel the soul of a great Kabardin dancer who lived a long time ago resides in their son. Tamerlan himself did not contemplate the career of a dancer when he was 4 years old. He said he'd rather be a policeman.
Let's put the fur hat on.
No, no. I look like a child.
In the afternoon, Tamerlan attends a rehearsal. Later, he'll take part in a major show in Nalchik, the Robert Sarop Show, which is a mix of Caucasian traditions of dancing and brand new audio-visual effects.
Anzor, could we start our rehearsal now?
I think so, yes.
Sarop has taken part in several Broadway theatre productions. This time he's taken a free and easy view of his compatriots' traditions by changing almost completely the choreography, the music and the costumes. The upshot is a lively show, but it's the target of vitriolic criticism by ardent supporters of tradition.
It has taken a fair amount of effort to convince the dancers that they needn't be ashamed of what they're doing. We have done nothing to breach the cultural traditions of our people.
One of Sarop's discoveries is a kaffa dressed up in tailcoats. Although the kaffa is the most traditional dance locally, half of the dancers appear in traditional Circassian cloaks, whereas the other half perform in dress coats. The result is a blend of the European minuet and the princely Kabardin dance.
It's a secular dance to a Caucasian tune. We've tried it, and you get the same impression no matter whether you're wearing a Circassian cloak or tails. You're not supposed to stoop and must stand like this. We've tried it. Wow, it's really wacky.
At the end of the show, the main hero, it's not clear whether he's a jester playing music in the streets or a character from the Italian comedy, flies away. His place on stage is taken by Tamerlan Kalmykov. Although the 4-year-old boy is obviously being timid in front of a full house, his traditional dance receives even louder applause than Robert Sarop's artistic experiments. The boy's movements reflect the age-old traditions of a people which will outlive any innovations.